gathered together voters from all sorts of different backgrounds. Young, old, Tory, Labour, and those who yet haven't a clue who they'll choose.
Funnily enough, me and Stephen dated 25 years ago. Only just met again.
Here we go.
What comes to mind when you see this person?
We're not allowed to swear, are we?
No swearing. You can be rude, of course.
He was beaten by Liz Truss, who was also useless. Yeah. So the fact that he was second place to her is...
And then a
baffling.
lettuce.
And you mentioned the lettuce.
Absolutely. He can't be forgotten, ever. Indelibly inked onto British politics for eternity.
He just scraped onto the podium against the lettuce.
Incompetent cretin.
Nice guy, but weak.
There's nothing like hearing it direct from the voter's mouth.
It's not strong enough.
No personality. You need a personality to rule.
It's like he's reading from a script when he talks.
Yeah, it does have charisma.
Yeah.
I think he's very arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's true.
obviously he's like got more money than he knows what to do with.
I would say out of touch, because I don't think he understands what the ordinary people go through.
Yeah,
I see privilege.
absolutely.
He literally he said when he was a kid he had no working class friends.
You've all seen the clip. Well, I mean, there are actually loads of clips of him going viral, which are taken out of context to make him look bad. Like, there's the one of him using the hammer incorrectly, the bit where he asks a homeless guy if he wanted to get into finance or something. But there was a preamble that showed them talking about that before. But on top of that, just bits like him saying he has no working class friends, talking about shifting money from deprived urban areas into Royal Tunbridge Wells, and of course the fact that his wife is richer than the king. It's so easy for us to realise. Also, I want to zero in on the woman who said he's arrogant. Haven't we both been making these points? We've been watching PMQs or him being interviewed, that he looks like somebody who hates being challenged.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, he hates when people talk back to him, and you're like, because basically, as a rich kid, he's never really had that. I suppose. No. I mean, they bully the shit out of you in private school to knock any kind of humanity out of you. But then after that, once you go out into the world, you're rich enough to just pay people to shut the fuck up.
Means that he's kind of out of touch with the lot of the common man that he's supposed to be representing as well.
I think he thinks he's doing a good job, but he's not connected with us.
No, and not at all connected.
He can't think he's doing a good job.
Oh, he does. They literally do.
He has to lie, obviously. There's no way because he knows the numbers are there. He's a numbers droid.
But the numbers are fine, though. The thing is, the numbers are fine as far as he's concerned. GDP is increasing if slowly. Inflation is coming down if slowly, right? Interest rates might be coming down soon at some point in the future. So as far as he is concerned, those are the only metrics that matters. And you've got to remember, these people imbibe neoliberal ideology like it's scripture, like an absolute religion. And so when they look at these key indicators, which they believe are the main key indicators that work, and when they're also so far removed from regular people in this country, they can't physically understand why lower inflation and higher growth overall doesn't translate into them people supporting them, because they don't realise that the NHS is on its knees. They don't realise that people can't afford to put food on their kids' plates. They don't realise that young people in this country, forget buying a house, they can't afford to leave their parents' house because rents are too high, because these people have been blocking new house building and things like that, right? Literally cannot possibly understand, because they're so ideologically wedded to neoliberalism, why anything they've done failed, when they've been told, not just from birth, but throughout their time having their political education, studying like PP at Oxbridge or working in investment banking like Rishi Sunak did at Goldman Sachs, they've only ever seen things through this lens, and they can never unwind from that scripture.
Oh, he just doesn't understand. He's wealthy.
He's like
got no idea what it's like.
For me, I feel like there's a real disconnect with, like, especially for working class and people that are really struggling.
I don't think that being wealthy means you're disconnected. He's good or he's bad.
People in this country don't like.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can be wealthy and not disconnected, but he is wealthy and disconnected.
Yeah, tell you who's wealthy and who is still connected. Marcus Rashford. And you know why? It's because he's lived both lives. He didn't grow up in private schools with no working class friends, like Winchester Boys School, Winchester College, whatever it is. Like, that's the reason why Rishi Sunak is completely aloof and completely uncaring for the vast majority of poor people in this country. And Marcus Rashford was fighting like he was the leader of the opposition for getting free school meals for kids, because he's experienced both. He knows what the difference is, whereas Rishi Sunak has never experienced one end of it.
Successful people, they're very bitter that they're not like them, and that's why I think everybody resents him.
I don't think he's out of touch. I just think the problems he has are so vast.
I thought he did a marvellous job as a Chancellor. Give him a chance.
Boris Johnson.
The fuck you talking about, you div?
I mean, the irony is that people will always celebrate Rishi Sunak for engaging in furlough and things like that, which, to be fair, was a good thing that he did. Let's just leave out the bit where he did eat out to help out despite being told that it would kill people. But when it comes to furlough, that's what people mostly credit him for when he was his time as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, hence why the BBC were happy to run stories of him as a superhero. But the issue is, of course, is that people don't really know what's been going on behind the scenes, and most of the kind of Downing Street sources say that he literally had to be railroaded into doing this stuff by the leader of the opposition at the time, who was Jumbly Crumbly Concrete, and also by Boris Johnson himself, because Boris Johnson just wants to do whatever the public want because he wants to be popular, whereas Rishi Sunak is almost instantaneously going to try and fight back against any state expenditure because he's an absolute austere neoliberal ideologically and at heart.
And for me, was more relatable. I think in Rishi Sunak's role as Chancellor, he supported me in my role at that time and helped me out a lot. I just think they were a strong pair together when Boris was Prime Minister.
Even among this group of Tory voters who say they want to stick with the party, the view of the country is so bleak, and they've clearly had enough of the Conservatives fighting amongst themselves.
No wonder he can't get anything done, because there's fighting and bickering. We all want to be Prime Minister.
You said Rishi Sunak lacks gravitas.
Unfortunately, I don't think he has that presence, and I think having a presence within an organisation means a lot, certainly in the environments that I've always worked in.
The polls suggest the government's been unpopular for a long time, but that's not necessarily the same thing as feeling excited about Keir Starmer.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you see this person?
Don't. To be honest with you, and I don't think he's the strongest of leaders.
I don't look at him and think he's the one that's going to come and save us.
He's very big on saying what he's going to do, but not on how.
I don't think we know enough about
literally what we've been saying.
I mean, he's basically just come onto the scene.
Yeah. I mean, he's come onto the scene saying, oh, we'll do this, this and this, but where's the money coming from to do this, this and
The thing is, what's so frustrating as well is that, I mean, the one thing that they actually have said that they're going to spend on is explicitly coming from borrowing. It's because they have like 3 spending plans that they are being explicit about that they've said that they're going to do. Not how they're going to do, but that they're going to do, which is 28 billion of fiscal expansion that's explicitly borrowing on green infrastructure projects. There's going to be the NHS workforce plan, which they have said they're going to fund with a non-dom tax status change. And then they've got the breakfast clubs for schools, for kids, and those are being paid for by the VAT on private school fees. So the irony is they were literally the first time they actually have said what they're going to pay for. But because so much of our political discussion amongst our horrendous journalism is all about any amount of public spending being de facto bad, they've not even bothered actually elucidating or properly explaining to the public explicitly what has already been said by the Labour Party about their potential spending plans.
Well, you say that one of their spending plans is 28 billion green prosperity, but that's been downgraded now to an ambition, not a pledge anymore.
Are you actually going to spend £28 billion a year on green projects at any point during the first term of a Labour administration?
Well, Trevor, look, we are committed to public investment that will deliver a much greater amount of private investment. Now, that figure that you've mentioned comes from the overall level of ambition that's been put forward and what is necessary to do the transition in the right way.
No,
how much you can
it wasn't
spend
an
is
overall
always
level of
determined by
ambition.
the
It was
economy.
a pledge. You were going to spend 28 billion a year. Are you going to do it or not?
Yes, but that's where that figure comes from. How much you can spend is determined by the health of the economy, which is clearly in a challenging position, and our own fiscal.
So he's not going to say that's a pledge. So it's not going to happen.
Well, things if the economy is doing worse, then we're going to need to spend more. Like that's how Keynesianism works, right?
No. If the economy is going badly, we can global warming goes away. It doesn't happen anymore. It's fine.
That's true. But the basic Keynesianism is the worse recession you're in, the more anemic your growth, the more justified you are in fiscal expansion to grow the economy. Like, this is the opposite of the truth here, Jonathan. Like, if the economy was in a really good position, then you wouldn't need to borrow more because you'd be getting more tax revenue from the economic growth.
I don't know what he actually believes. I think everything he says is to try and win the majority over. And then when he gets it wrong, he'll quickly realise and correct himself and then just looks stupid. Whereas I think Jeremy Corbyn was more grounded with his beliefs.
True.
Hang on, did they just have someone saying something vaguely nice about Jeremy Corbyn on the BBC?
It's unfortunate that you can't just control what people are going to say. You can try and filter these people out as much as you want, but there is definitely, especially among younger people, a very large cross-section of the public who think that that politicians who have plans and stick to them and believe in them is actually a good thing, rather than people who just say what they think members of the public want to hear, which is exactly the criticism that we all have. I mean, plenty of people within this panel we've already heard say we don't know what he stands for. And one of the main reasons it's difficult to know what he stands for is because if you don't like his principles, he always has others. And that's been the central theme, especially when, he explicitly stood on a plan that he knew that he was going to climb down on.
Somebody that was either here or there, not somewhere in between.
I don't think he's a working class leader. And
How dare you? Whoa!
Pebble Dash Semi, mother.
How dare you besmirch the good working class name of our son of a toolmaker? I can't believe it. It's almost like this continual absolute banging on over and over again. My dad was a toolmaker. Cue Politics Joe Supercut. Isn't cutting through because people know that it's nonsense. The guy who was top cop and member of the Tricom is not a salt of the earth working class representative, despite his protestations to the contrary. It's just really frustrating when we're literally getting members of the public on a panel that's being done for the mainstream UK politics programme, explicitly saying what we've been saying the whole time about everything that's wrong with Keir Starmer, whilst our entire journalism class, bar none, outside of like a tiny minority of people who actually have genuine right or left wing beliefs, have all talked about how Keir Starmer is just this grown up, sensible politician who has excellent strategy and good communications, when literally none of these things are true. It's like a force field has been withdrawn, and suddenly we're getting actual real opinions on our political representatives, not filtered through 5 different layers of lobby journalism nonsense.
Associate the Labour Party with working class people.
I'm surprised that he accepted the knighthood, because it seems strange to have a Labour leader who's knighted.
Knight of the Realm? Salt of the Earth, Knight of the Realm.
I don't know. I mean, there have been others. I don't know. Actually, has a sitting Labour member been?
No.
I don't think it'll be too long before they oust him, and we'll go back to the Corbynite era.
Based. Let's hope so.
Awesome,
but that's not true.
yeah.
That's literally not true.
Well, no, because this is the Conservative twats who don't understand anything.
To be fair, nobody's communicated to them what's happening within the Labour Party. Our journalists are literally supposed to be there to explain to people what's going on here, and explain to people, no, look what's happened to the Labour Party. He was elected on a platform that he's now explicitly rejected because he was trying to con the membership to get there. All of the people who have the power to ensure that someone can have left-wing representation within the Labour Party, they've all been purged from leadership positions, from power positions within the party, within the PLP. They're all gone. The rules for how you get nominated as leader, they're all gone as well. The chance of a Corbynite takeover of the party ever happening in the future is literally gone. It's over. It's completely Jover, especially after a huge swathe of self-selected, carefully picked from the Politburo PPCs become Labour MPs when the Conservatives get completely annihilated in the next election. And the threshold for how a left-wing person can get on the leadership ballot is curtailed even further. Like, these are things that our political journalists should be communicating to the public, but they've just not bothered to doing that, because the potential threat of a Corbynite takeover is how they can control Labour into maintaining their right-wing position.
Kind of a controlled opposition situation.
Yeah, funny, weird. What a weird way of describing a thing. I can't believe it. Controlled opposition in the UK?
Never.
Heaven forfend.
No.
I think his kind of popularity has been helped kind of by default because of kind of the backlash to the Conservatives. I think you can only really judge him kind of when he's in power.
I do actually think he's got integrity. I do think he will try.
Who are you?
Again, someone who's not paid attention, because they literally haven't had any of this stuff communicated to them. Although what I will
think
say,
he's of
it is
integrity, but no, that's not acceptable. Don't say it then.
But I mean, it's again, literally the job of our politicians and our journalists is to communicate this information to these people. And they've just failed at their basic job of holding Keir Starmer to account because they like him and his politics. They want him to be in power and therefore are not criticising him properly. Like, how many times have we seen Keir Starmer lose his rag essentially internally with journalists for mild questioning? Because it happens so rarely. Like, from Sophie Ridge and Beth Rigby, basically the only people who ever scrutinise him in any of these ways. What I will say though, with the previous person before this woman specifically saying, well, actually I think that his popularity isn't to do with anything that he's done, it's mostly just backlash to the Conservatives, it's ironic just how many Labourites, how many Starmerites reject that prima facie. We'll go, no, it must be because we've taken the party back to the centre ground, why we've become electable, and that's why people are supporting us. It's nothing to do with huge swathes of the country's mortgage rates going up because of Liz Truss, and that being the biggest demographic that shifted to Labour to give this lead, plus Reform UK cutting into the Conservative vote. It's all Keir Starmer's sensible facade, when actually, if we look at the research that was elucidated by Aditya Chakraborty of The Guardian, across Europe, they did loads of studies showing the trying to appeal to right-wingers, trying to subsume conservatism through a left-wing party, doesn't actually lead to any higher votes and just gives credence to right-wing arguments so that they become stronger in response. Like, there is no reason to do this. It's bad that they're doing it because the policy is worse, and Starmerites are just convinced that it's the only reason why they're 25 points ahead or whatever it is. It's ridiculous.
This group all say they're going to vote Labour. They voted Labour last time. But it was really striking. There's no sense of passion for Keir Starmer. Still some question marks of what he's really about. Everyone in that room says they're going to vote Labour, but nobody in that room felt like they were excited about Keir Starmer. Why?
Because you don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about him. To me, it's just like just popped up out of nowhere.
There's a lot of weight on his shoulders.
Weird, that, isn't it? Oh, he just popped out of nowhere. It's almost like that he was deliberately selected to pop out of nowhere in backroom meetings by Labour Together and Morgan McSweeney trying to insert him into party leadership. Don't you find that weird that he was just going to pop out of nowhere?
No, he was the best candidate for the job, clearly. That must be him because he's amazing. King Keith.
He was just so erudite and fantastic in terms of his politics that he was just a natural fit. And it was indeed nothing to do with Labour Together's plot to try and oust the left. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.